To quote the famous phrase of Randolph Bourne, is the health of the state. By which Bourne meant, along with a lot of other things, that war permits the state to encroach on personal freedoms, increasing its scope and power while systematically shrinking the liberties of the people. The comment was obviously true, historically speaking, as for many ages, kings, nobles, and eventually parliaments avidly sought authority, revenue, and other resources to wage their seemingly endless battles. Bourne's axiom would be more valid yet in the modern era, as corvées numbering in the millions were mobilized in wars of global mass destruction, and newfangled methods of coercion and surveillance brought ever more aspects of daily life under the sway of state compulsion. This study of World War II by Burton and Anita Folsom is an instructive treatment of such matters, adding in significant fashion to our understanding of President Franklin Roosevelt, his subalterns, and their performance in that titanic conflict. In numerous ways, the picture the Folsoms sketch for us is in stark contrast to the standard histories we've been given dealing with Roosevelt and his conduct of the struggle. It has become fashionable in recent years to speak of the Americans who fought World War II as the greatest generation. For those who stayed to the bitter end at Corregidor, stormed the shores of Normandy, or raised the flag at Iwo Jima, such praise is not excessive. The heroism of the soldiers, sailors, marines, and airmen who fought the battles of Europe and the far Pacific should be remembered as long as there is an American nation. At the level of political diplomatic leadership, however, there is a less edifying story to be told, fragments of which have emerged in piecemeal fashion across the decades from formerly confidential records, official archives, and the memoirs of leading actors in the drama. In this ongoing process of discovery and revision, the authors of the present study have brought together many revealing fragments, and thus made a much-needed contribution to the genre. Though FDR is treated in many histories as a far-seeing statesman waging a great crusade for freedom, the record provided by the Folsoms, backed by their extensive researches, shows us something different. In lack of preparedness during the run-up to the war, while contriving to get us in it, thereafter in many phases of its conduct, and most of all in the end game played out with Soviet dictator Stalin at Tehran and Yalta, Roosevelt made countless tragic blunders, to put the matter no more strongly. In particular, by various wartime stratagems, and by pursuing the post-war policies he favored, he materially increased the strength of the Soviet Union, and so helped consign untold numbers of suffering victims to its despotic rule. While the Folsoms deal with issues of this sort in their discussion, it is in the realm of domestic policy and its impact on the nation that they make their most distinctive contribution. They show in detail the extent to which FDR used the war emergency with the best of motives per his defenders, but motives here are not the issue, to seek a further concentration of the federal power that had been growing steadily in the New Deal era. These wartime methods included exorbitant levels of taxation, massive increases in federal spending, a vast proliferation of federal bureaus, controls on prices, production, commerce, energy, and countless other facets of national life, all on the premise that the emergency called for such draconian measures. Here was the health of the state, indeed, on a scale that far exceeded the earlier doings of Woodrow Wilson, which had led Bourne to make his sardonic comment. Equally to the point, as the Folsoms further show, was the use Roosevelt made of the power at his disposal, going after domestic foes and critics via wiretaps by the FBI, tax audits, regulatory crackdowns, and indictments for sedition, plus the well-known internment of Japanese Americans, a measure favored by Earl Warren, but opposed by J. Edgar Hoover. Roosevelt's efforts to punish and silence such opponents as Colonel Robert McCormick of the Chicago Tribune and the Patterson newspaper.